There are now here from our Secretary of Education and state some more about this.
I think our schools should be open 12, 13, 14 hours a day. So not just lengthening.
So 8 to 8 or something like that?
Yes, and let me tell you what, not just lengthening hours of the school day, but a wide variety of after-school activities, drama, arts, sports, chess, debate, academic enrichment, programs for parents, GED, ESL, family literacy nights, potluck dinners. At home, we attached healthcare clinics to about 24 of our schools. Where schools truly become the centers of the community, great things happen. So I think we need the schools open much longer hours. And by the way, we don't have to do this all ourselves as educators. You can bring in great nonprofits, the YMCAs, the Boys and Girls Clubs, mentoring and tutoring groups to co-locate their services and better serve the community from the school. In every neighborhood in our country, you have schools. In every school, you have classrooms, you have computer labs, you have libraries, you have gyms, many have pools. Those buildings don't belong to you or I. They don't belong to the unions, they belong to the community. We have these great physical resources, and we need to maximize
So
it.
keep them open 12 hours a day, 12 months a year.
Yes.
12 hours a day, 12 months a year.
And I would go to 6 or 7 days a week, not just Monday through Friday.
7 days a week.
Schools
So
need
the
to
school
be,
becomes a center of community life.
when the school becomes a center of community life, great things are going to happen for those families and great things are going to happen
And
for those
tell me
children.
why that hasn't happened before. I mean, who has stood in the way of that happening before?
I don't know about you, but I'm a little scared as a parent for my children and their children if this is what's going to be happening. I think we have history to show this happening in other parts of the world in history. It didn't turn out real good from my remembrance. Next, let's get into a little bit of the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, otherwise known as FERPA. And this was put in place back in, I believe it was 2011, to protect, again, that name sounds really nice. It's supposed to protect all these things, rights and privacy. Unfortunately, FERPA was amended in 2012 unilaterally by our Secretary, Arnie Duncan, to open the floodgates for data collection, which again, as you showed earlier in the slides, is a major piece of this legislation and the standards, is to be able to get and disseminate our kids' data to third parties, which include government and non-governmental agencies, state and local, researchers, universities, private companies, and corporations. Anyone who is an authorized representative is included in here. And this is the law, and we'll go into it a little bit more. And also, according to research from the Home School Legal Defense Association, the state of Minnesota is already collecting and storing data on homeschoolers. Next, let's talk a little bit about ACTs in the state of Minnesota. We have ACT testing in many grades starting next year, or in this current year. Those tests are written all the way down to kindergarten. The assessments and college admittances are now aligned to the Common Core standards as we talked about earlier. This means that all students, homeschoolers, private students, will all have to comply to be admitted into college. According to the ACT website, ACT is pleased to be a partner with Common Core initiatives. In short, college means any education after high school. So that includes vocational, your certificate, and licensing programs. Let's talk a little bit about rights here and opting out of standardized testing. When I went to school, I think many of you, we had standardized testing in 3rd grade, 5th grade, 8th grade, and probably the ACT or SATs before we went to college. Now our students may have as many as 4 to 5 standardized tests every academic year. I know in Robbinsdale, we have 4 of those. We have the MAP, which is the MAP testing in the fall, in the winter and the spring, and then we have the standardized Minnesota testing in the spring also. These standardized tests don't just include the test. There's weeks of preparation, prep tests, makeup tests. All of this takes away from teaching and learning during the classroom. In Minneapolis, the BATs, which are the badass teachers, I've gone to those. Some of their heavily free and reduced lunches have up to 3 weeks during the year that it is associated with the standardized testing, makeups, and preparation time. What you can do is, in the state of Minnesota, you have the option as a parent to opt out of these standardized testing. These standardized testings are not required for graduations or grading. We have on our website, which we'll give to you later, a simplified version of an opt-out letter, or all you need is to do a note given to your principal or your teacher or the testing association or testing coordinator to opt out. They do have to go to school. We don't want any truancy, but they do not have to take the test. So why should we be concerned? Here's a sample of a question asked of children in the Minnesota student survey of 7th graders in 2013. The items include age, grade, if the student is male or female, height, weight, who the child resides with, ethnical groups, if they're on an IEP or special education services, is the student receiving free or reduced lunch program, grade, study skills, community participation, mental health issues, behavioral and emotional issues, including suicide, drug and alcohol use, physical and sexual abuse, eating and exercise habits, dating habits, remember this is 7th graders, habits and relationships, hours of work for pay, again 7th grade, I thought 16, maybe down to 15, tanning booth use, family incarceration, and for high school students, sexual preferences and contraceptive use are all included. This is supposed to be anonymous and confidential, but with the advent of iPads and notebooks, which are brought about by the schools, they're logging in under their IDs. Most people that I know in the IT area, that probably is somewhere embedded in there and can be followed student by student. Let's look at the state longitudinal data system, otherwise known as SLED. What is it? The database was started back in the 2000s under the No Child Left Behind and is collecting up to 1,000 data points on every student. SLED are collecting identifiable information without parents' knowledge. States that accepted federal stimulus money are required to participate in the databases. The grant requirements are, it has to be prenatal through postgraduate. It has to be interterritorial with other state and governmental agencies. What kind of data are they collecting? Blood type, eye and hair color, dental records, voting status, political affiliation, mother's maiden names, religious affiliations, premature births, bus stop location and arrival times, income levels, number of bedrooms and bathrooms in your home. Collections from the sensors and data, facial expression, postures, and other items are also tracked. All of this is under the Office of Education Technology of the U.S., or part of the Department of Education. We'll go a little bit into the biometrics quickly here. What they're doing is looking at the way that people react under certain circumstances. Pressure, fingerprints, other types of DNA items. And all this is to find out, when questions are asked, what type of reaction you have from a student. And this has been codified. In the state of Minnesota, all of the school districts either are or have adopted a standardized Rule 515, Policy 515. And under that, the biometric record is referred to in personal identifiable, means a record of one or more measurable biological or behavioral characteristics that can be used to authorize recognition of an individual, such as the retina, the fingerprints, voice DNA segments. Does not include specific daily records of the student's attendance at the school. So the question is, why has the district adopted biometric policies unless they are going to be engaged in biometrics on your student? Hopkins also, because we just did a presentation, has a very similar one. And this is pretty much standardized through the Minnesota School Board Association and comes through legislation.
What was that policy number for Robbinsdale?
They're all 515. I think that's, again, standardized from the Minnesota Association, or the School Board Association. So here's a few of the 21st century critical factors for success. Again, promoting grit, tenacity, and perseverance. You've got the cameras, which are pretty standard. You've got the posture analysis chairs, and then also the pressure mouse wireless, and then the skin contact. On all of these, Bill Gates wants to also start MRIs on all children's brains for initial determination for future jobs in elementary school. We have some of the best teachers in the world, but under Common Core, that will change. The creativity and autonomy of teachers is being lost. In essence, we are changing about 85% of the curriculum to be reading as I am out of a book. And 15% of that then will be determined based on what teachers went into going forward. In New York State, they're a little bit ahead of us in the backlash here. We have a video here from testimony from Mary Clamery. We'll watch that now. She had testimony before the Minnesota State Assembly for Minority Education Committee.
New York State Assembly.
Good afternoon. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and I'm a psychotherapist. I work with parents, children, and about half of my caseload is teachers also. My caseload represents about 20 different school districts in Suffolk County. In the summer of 2012, my elementary school teachers started to report increased anxiety over having to learn 2 entirely new curricula for math and ELA. And that was when I first heard about the change to the curricula to a one-size-fits-all, taking the imagination and innovation out of the hands of the teachers. In the fall of 2012, my phone started ringing. I started getting an inordinate number of referrals of students, a lot of honors students, 8th graders mostly, who were self-mutilating. They were cutting themselves with sharp objects, and they were burning themselves with cigarettes. My phone never stopped. And I didn't know why. I asked the kids, and all they kept saying was, "We can't take the pressure, it's too much." I also started getting a lot of elementary school students referred to me. They were refusing to go to school. They said they felt stupid and that school was too hard. They were throwing tantrums, begging to stay home, and upset to the point of vomiting. I was hearing from parents about kids bringing home homework they couldn't help them with. I was alarmed to hear that in some cases there were no textbooks for the parents to look at, and they had no idea what their children were learning. The teachers were reporting a staggering level of anxiety and depression, and that was when I first heard the term Common Core, and learned about the standards that we now say set the bar so high anyone can walk right under it. Everyone was talking about the tests. As the school year progressed and the tests loomed, my patients were increasing their self-mutilating behaviors. They were complaining of insomnia, panic attacks, loss of appetite, depressed mood, and in one case, suicidal thoughts that resulted in a 2-week hospital stay for an adolescent.